I want you to look at question number 1 in the self-evaluation section here in this disciples journal, and ask this question: what were the last 3 decisions you made? Were they wise ones? I'm not sure. Do you think I've dressed appropriately? Should I have had a hamburger and hot dog for lunch? I don't. Anyway, I don't think those are the kind of questions or the kind of decisions that they're thinking about here. I don't think they're asking about lunch or clothing. I think it's something a bit more serious. So how do we know when we have made a wise decision? What metric do we use to determine this? What metric do we use to determine whether or not we've made a wise decision? Let's explore that. We're going to take a look at some advice that James, the half-brother of Jesus, gives us from his book in the New Testament. We'll look at that in just a moment. You're watching Transforming the World, and my name is Pastor Greg. So there's this guy named Nehemiah. He lives in the ancient kingdom of Persia. Nehemiah was Jewish, and he was a servant to the Persian king. His name was Artaxerxes. Great name, right? Well, one day his brother comes to visit. Nehemiah's brother comes to visit, and he talks about just how tragic the city of Israel, or excuse me, the city of Jerusalem was back in Israel. It was a wreck. It was still in rubble. It was like it was completely destroyed by King Nebuchadnezzar when he captured Jerusalem, and they've never really rebuilt it for the most part. For almost 100 years, the place has just been in ruins, and it was like the laughing stock of the world around them. People made fun of Israel. Not like you used to be, are you? Well, you call that a temple? That kind of stuff. Nehemiah was a little brokenhearted about that. He felt somewhat compelled to go back and see what he could do to make a difference, to bring Jerusalem back to its, at least to a semblance of its glory and honor. The problem was, he was a servant. It's not like he could go up to king and say, I need a couple months off to go back to this project at home. So he was in a conundrum. He really was. He was a servant. You just don't go up to the king, expect the Persian king, Persian king like Artaxerxes. You don't go up to him and just say, I need some time off. So Nehemiah prayed. He prayed for quite some time. What to do. Nehemiah prayed. Nehemiah ends up praying, and this is the part that I love. As he prayed, God actually presented a moment. God actually put the circumstances in place, so the king ends up sending Nehemiah back, and it actually almost helps fund the whole operation. When Nehemiah got to Jerusalem, he assessed the extent of the damage, not knowing what to do. Guess what he did? He prayed. What decisions do you make? He prayed. When he faced opposition, how do you respond to those who are opposing the work in Jerusalem? What do? Nehemiah prayed. He ended up dealing with some internal corruption in Jerusalem. How do you deal with it? Guess what he did? How do you make a wise decision? He prayed. Wise decisions should always begin with prayer. I want you to look at what James writes in James chapter 3. I'm going to pick up reading here in verse 13. If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life, doing good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you're bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying. For jealousy and selfishness are not God's kinds of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first of all pure, It's also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness. I like that. So let's think back to the last 3 decisions that we made. Major decisions, not what to have for lunch, but major decisions. And do this exercise as you think back to the last 3 really big decisions that you made. Let's evaluate it. Was it a God-focused wisdom decision, or was it a worldly-focused wisdom decision? So let's ask these questions. A couple questions I just think, coming out of the book of James, I think it's very helpful for us to look at that. If you pull out of this little section of James chapter 3, this is what we find. Were our decisions God-focused? Were they God-honoring? Did our decisions help us maintain holiness? Another good question. Were they selfish decisions? Did they help maintain peace, or did they stir up trouble? Did those decisions cause discord and stress on others? I mean, and we should be thinking about others because, let's face it, major decisions almost always cause stress on ourselves. But the fruit of that decision, how did it affect those around you? I think James gives us a really good metric here to determine whether or not we are making God-focused decisions in our life. Most certainly, before you are faced with a major decision in life, pray. Although there are times when I do get to the refrigerator trying to make a decision, and I do end up praying. Lord, what's best for my waistline? That kind of stuff. But evaluate your decision against these words in James chapter 3. Your decision might seem right in your own eyes, but it could be quite divisive to others. So think long and hard about those major decisions. Does it honor God? Does it maintain your holiness? Is it going to be made out of selfishness? Does it cause division and strife? Some good questions to ask as you are preparing yourself to make a big decision in your life. A lot of wise words that come out of the book of James here about wisdom. Okay, one more day of looking at wisdom. We'll examine that tomorrow. I do appreciate you spending time with me here today on Transforming the World. My name's Pastor Greg, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.